We have tons of breaking news right now. Mueller bearing down on Roger Stone. As a new recording leaks, we're going to broadcast it for you tonight. Later, I have a fact check on the midterms and Trump's rallies. And The View meets the beat as Joy Behar joins me live in about 20 minutes. But first, our top story tonight is breaking news unlike anything we've seen this year. The FBI is now probing a credible plot to frame Bob Mueller. We rarely hear directly from Special Counsel Bob Mueller's office, especially as an election approaches. But tonight, we are reporting a rare announcement from the Russia probe that confirms the FBI is now investigating an apparently credible plot to try to frame Mueller, an effort to smear him in order to either discredit him or get him potentially even removed from the probe into collusion in the Trump operation. This sounds big and unusual because it's big and unusual. In a moment, I will be joined here on the beat by someone who was approached by people apparently working on this scheme. First, here is exactly what we know. Multiple news outlets reporting tonight on a plot by a Republican linked to an operative, Republican-linked operative trying to frame Mueller on what appear to be made-up allegations of either harassment or sexual misconduct that would be pushed against Mueller. The Atlantic reporting the details from a woman who recounted this explosive offer up to $20,000 to make accusations of sexual misconduct or workplace harassment against Mueller. She says those would be false, and she also says a Republican activist named Jack Berkman offered to pay off, quote, all my credit card debt, plus bring me a check for $20,000 if I would do it. So far, she obviously is not doing that. And also, to cover any potential tracks, she says this offer came from someone refusing to use a normal phone line, but asking her instead to talk on an encrypted app to evade authorities. Quote, he said, I want you to make accusations of sexual misconduct and workplace harassment against Mueller, and I want you to sign a sworn affidavit to that effect. Matches this account because Berkman just released a video online last week trying to smear Mueller along these kind of lines. Now, I'm not airing the audio of his words in our reporting tonight from the video because that's not the headline. The headline tonight is that the smear plot itself is now under FBI investigation. That's brand new. Not that there's any evidence supporting the smears apparently linked to Berkman. And while the fallout from this quite strange story is obviously still reverberating because this is all brand new, legal experts and some White House veterans already noting that if the order of what I just told you had been reversed, if, for example, the world first learned about this kind of accusation in theory against Mueller before these leaks about its potentially illegal framing, well, it could have upended his career and the probe into the heart of the Trump presidency.
It's the kind of accusation that can ruin someone's life. They were peddling something like this, and even their co-conspirator, the woman, had the, I guess, wherewithal to confess to reporters on the phone that she was being offered a lot of money to smear Robert Mueller.
As for what I mentioned in the top of our broadcast tonight, the special counsel's office rarely says anything on the record, certainly outside of the cases it's pursuing, but not tonight. Mueller's chief spokesperson going on the record stating, quote, when we learned last week of allegations that women were offered money to make false claims about the special counsel, we immediately referred the matter to the FBI for investigation. Peter Carr, chief spokesman to Bob Mueller. Now, in a moment, I can tell you I'll be joined exclusively by a law professor who was also approached in this smear plot against Mueller. But I begin with some prosecutors who know their way around these issues. Former Watergate Special Prosecutor Nick Ackerman and former federal prosecutor John Flannery. Nick, when you look at this unusual announcement and this unusual plot, what does it tell you? Mueller's office is speaking on the record and referring it to the FBI tonight.
Well, I think this is very important for the public to know. I mean, this is a situation where everything has been thrown at Robert Mueller. They've tried to undermine him through the Congress. They've tried to undermine the Manafort jury deliberation. You had one juror even referring to the whole investigation as a witch hunt, copying basically what Giuliani and Trump have been saying. They have tried everything, so it does not surprise me that they would go to this length of trying to obstruct this entire investigation by going directly after Mueller.
You said they. Tonight we're looking at this plot to make false smear sexual accusations against Bob Mueller. Who are they?
Well, first of all, there's Berkman. There's the investigative firm that he's working for. Somebody's financing this. He is not doing this on his own. I mean, if you've got an FBI investigation, they're going to be looking at everybody that is involved in this plot.
You worked in the Watergate investigation. There was a lot of talk there about money for political and counter-espionage efforts in the U.S. that looked sloppy, and the money led really high. Do you think that's something that the FBI is going to look at here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is exactly what's going on. This is like the end result of the meeting that occurred in Attorney General Mitchell's office at the beginning of this whole Watergate scandal, where they were looking at ways to try and undermine people, compromise people, and to create false stories.
Let me bring in John Flannery. Does the conduct described here, it's a breaking story, there's much we don't know, and as I say, we're talking about one name on the record, this Republican-linked conspiracy theorist, but does the conduct described in these reports look to you like a potential crime?
Yes, it does. I mean, the obvious is a continuation of the obstruction of the investigation. They've not really been able to lay a finger on Mr. Mueller. In fact, everybody started with praise for him. But now, as the election's about to end and he's about to reactivate his office and to do who knows what with all sorts of suspicion about likely targets and reports, I think it's time to re-up and to find a way to attack him. And there are provisions, both obviously you use the conspiracy code, and that could be overt acts, don't have to be crimes, but there are several provisions in obstruction of justice in which you're impeding or you're threatening or you're harassing or you're trying to affect or influence an investigation or an officer, in this case perhaps Mr. Mueller. And there are very serious penalties involved. A lot of these people, if they've done this, and that's the hypothetical, the investigative hypothetical, did Berkman and others with sources of funds from whomever actually tried to influence the investigation by false attacks against the chief investigator, Mr. Mueller himself? And if so, that's big news.
And who has $20,000 lying around to pursue this? This isn't just a conspiracy tweet as reported.
Right. And well, I know also I don't know what her credit card debt is, but and if there are women, as have been reported, that they want to look and see what women were affected in this, that's more than the one person that we've seen figured in today's releases and press. And it does seem to be linked back to Berkman having, in the sense that he's announcing on November the 1st, we're going to know what's happening. And in the past, he's offered $25,000 to anybody who give any dirt on the FBI in connection with this ongoing investigation. So he has a track record which makes him a highly suspicious character worth investigating by the FBI.
Let me pull on the thread as promised the audience. John, stay with me. Nick Ackerman, thank you as always for joining us on a busy night. I have an exclusive right now. Vermont Law School professor Jennifer Taub says she was personally targeted as part of this plot. She says a man approached her offering to compensate her for this kind of dirt on Mueller. And Jennifer joins me now. Thanks for joining me tonight.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
I think you may have some information that is of interest to people as we pull on these threads. I'm going to start by reading what you've provided to our newsroom here at The Beat. October 22nd email, a man contacts you claiming to work for Surefire Intelligence and says, it's my understanding you may have had past encounters with Bob Mueller. I'd like to discuss these encounters with you. I believe a basic call, which I would compensate you for at whatever rate you see fit inside reason, would be a good place to start. Continuing this, he says, my organization's conducting an examination of Mueller's past. Tell me a decent method to contact you by telephone or signal, and a beginning rate to talk with you about all encounters you've had with Special Counsel Mueller. Goes on to say, we'd likewise pay you for any references that you may have and appreciate your discretion. It's very sensitive. What did you make of that inquiry?
I found it really creepy, to be honest with you, and immediately upon reading it, I went on the internet to try to find a phone number or some other method to contact the special counsel's office, and all I could find was an email, so I immediately forwarded the email. Just so I should add, I've never met Robert Mueller. I've had no encounters, no phone calls, so I don't know him at all. But I didn't want to
Jennifer,
respond.
you don't know Bob Mueller, and you don't know why they came to you, other than I suppose that as a law professor you're in this space.
I have no idea why they came to me. I mean, one thing I'm thinking is I had published an op-ed a few weeks earlier about the Kavanaugh hearings. Maybe